10 craziest moments in NFL history. Number 10. Yzerman sinks the Blues. Steve Yzerman had quite the impressive career with the Detroit Red Wings, yet his greatest goal came in Game 7 of the 1996 Western Conference semifinal against the St. Louis Blues. The match was in double overtime when Yzerman recovered the puck off the stick of St. Louis's Wayne Gretzky and skated down ice. The Detroit captain let a blazing slap shot go from just inside the St. Louis blue line that beat John Casey and gave the Wings a 1-0 win. Number 9. Willie O'Ree becomes the first African-American in the NHL. On January 18, 1958, Willie O'Ree, a player of the Boston Bruins, became the first African-American player to make an appearance in an NHL game. O'Ree actually didn't play too much in the NHL, participating in just 45 games and 2 seasons before returning to the minor leagues for a long and fertile career. His NHL totals account to 4 goals and 14 points. After his retirement from pro hockey, O'Ree began to participate in activism for diversity in hockey, working for the NHL in an advisory and public relations capacity. Number 8. Too many men ends Cherry's coaching career in Boston. Don Cherry's Boston Bruins reached the Stanley Cup final in both 1977 and 1978, only to fall to the mighty Montreal Canadiens, who won their second and third consecutive championships. In 1979, the Bruins clashed with the Canadiens in the semifinals, and the series went to a whopping 7 games. Boston was attempting to hold on to a 1-goal lead late in the third period when the Bruins were assessed a bench minor for fielding too many men on the ice. Guy Lafleur scored the tying goal during the ensuing power play, and Montreal won the game in overtime on a tally by Yvonne Lambert. The Bruins fired Cherry the following summer. Number 7. Rookie Ken Dryden leads Habs to 1971 Cup win. Ken Dryden had appeared in all of 6 NHL games when the 1970 through 1971 NHL playoffs got underway, but the Cornell grad played well and was named Montreal's starting goaltender for the playoffs over veteran Rogie Vachon. All Dryden did was to simply lead the Canadiens to one of the most impressive upsets in NHL history. First, Montreal upset the defending Stanley Cup champion Bruins in 7 games. The Bruins set a new record that year, scoring more than 100 goals, more than the next highest team, and finishing 12 games higher in the standings than the next best team. They also obtained the top 4-point scorers in the NHL in Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito, Johnny Busick, and Ken Hodge. Number 6. Flyers become first expansion team to win the Cup. When the league expanded from 6 to 12 teams in 1967, the new expansion teams had to make do with leftover talent from the established club's rosters. Representing the expansion teams in the Stanley Cup Final in 1968, 1969, and 1970, the St. Louis Blues failed to win a single game. In fact, none of the expansion teams had ever defeated any of the original 6 clubs in the playoffs during the first 6 seasons after the league grew in 1967 and 1968. By 1974, the Flyers were more than ready to suddenly change all that. Combining a physical, intimidating style of play with timely scoring and outstanding goaltending by Bernie Parent, they easily finished with the league's second-best record. In the playoffs, they defeated the Rangers in 7 games in the semifinal before, beating Bobby Orr and the Bruins in 6 games, winning the Stanley Cup. Number 5. Bob Bond scores OT winner on a broken ankle. Leafs defenseman Bob Bond was one of the more popular players on the team, despite the fact that he only scored 37 goals in 964 career NHL games, being a fan favorite for his all-out effort and the booming body checks he often dished out to opponents. During Game 6 of the 1964 Stanley Cup Final, with Toronto trailing the series 3-2, Bond obtained a broken bone in his foot and had to be transported away from the field on a stretcher. Quote, "I got hit in the foot by a shot by Gordie Howe, so they took me to the Olympia Infirmary. The guys who looked at it didn't think I could hurt it any more than I already had, so they froze it and I went back to play the game," Bond said in an interview. Number 4. First All-Star Game benefits Ace Bailey. On February 14, 1934, the best players in the NHL gathered to play an exhibition game at Maple Leaf Gardens in an effort to help raise money for former Leafs star Ace Bailey and his family. Bailey's career prematurely ended 2 months earlier when he was hit from behind by Boston's Eddie Shore and fractured his skull on the ice, resulting in Bailey almost losing his life. He managed to recover, but doctors told him that he should never play hockey again. The benefit game between the Leafs and the All-Stars ended with a 7-3 Toronto victory, raising an impressive amount of almost $21,000 for the cause. Number 3. Messier delivers the cup to Broadway. Rangers fans had waited 54 years for a championship since the magical season of 1940, but year after year, despite some very talented teams, the Broadway Blue Shirts fell short of a Stanley Cup win. The organization came close many times, reaching the final in 1950, 1972, and again in 1979. Mark Messier, luckily, managed to bring an end to that. In 1991 and 1992, he went on to lead the Rangers to their first President's Trophy in 50 years, at last finally delivering a championship. Number 2, the Richard Riot. The Richard Riot took place in Montreal way back in 1955. On March 13th, 1955, Canadian star Maurice "Rocket" Richard hit a linesman and ended up being suspended by the NHL president, Clarence Campbell, for the entire rest of the season as well as the playoffs. Campbell then made the grave mistake of attending a game in Montreal merely 4 days later, which resulted in all hell breaking loose. Fans protested and the tremendous riot escalated onto the streets, resulting in approximately 100 people arrested and 37 people injured as the fatal result of the riot. Many of the fans in Montreal felt that Campbell had been too severe on Richard because of his French-Canadian heritage, and the Richard Riot itself was an indication of rising tensions in Quebec between French speakers and English speakers. Richard himself made an appeal to the fans to stop the violence. Number 1. Gretzky passes Gordy, scores number 802. Wayne Gretzky became the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer, passing the idol of his childhood, Gordie Howe, on March 23, 1994. It was the 802nd goal of the Great One's ridiculously successful career and came during a 6-3 Kings loss to the Vancouver Canucks at the Fabulous Forum in Inglewood, California. Kirk McLean was the unlucky goalie. No one has dared even to make a mere attempt at matching Gretzky since then. That's been 10 of the craziest moments in NHL history. What did you think of the list? Let us know in the comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and hit that bell so you never miss an upload.